How are you, sir?
Hey Joey, how you doing?
Hanging in there. It's nice and windy and cold in New York, so it's almost like England. It's doing our best impression. Uh, Speaking of impressions, a movie about a writer who is grieving their parents. I lost my mom in January, so thanks for making a movie about me. Um,
I'm sorry to hear that.
I no, of course, but at the same time, I think in a way this is so very much the kind of movie that once you kind of have that moment of, oh no, this is the movie I'm watching,
Yeah,
it's the right kind of movie to watch. And I when I was talking to Andrew, the director, about it, he was aware of that. Of just like, I don't necessarily want people to be miserable watching this. I want it to feel like you're going through something, but that there's a catharsis there. And I think
mm,
it really does sort of rest in a way on your shoulders. We have to
mm,
go through your experience. So when
yeah,
you read it, how do you start processing that? I'm sure you go, this is a great role. I want to work with him, but also this is a lot.
yeah, yeah. It's so funny. There's no part of me that ever thinks that the film is like miserable. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's kind of come up, because I've had some friends that I've been sensitive about them seeing the film, going to it, who've lost their parents, or not just their parents, but suffered from grief, or even people who've recently come out of relationships, or
Right.
just people who are going through real grief. To go, I'm not sure, and they've gone to the film, and they have had a real moment of catharsis where they felt really seen. And even though it's painful, it's something that, art is about, trying to see each other and to represent each other in a way, so you can teach us how to. Art is supposed to teach us how to live in some way and how to cope. And there's something about the idea that, how do you console the inconsolable? And I don't think you console the inconsolable by never mentioning that. I think one of the things about grief is that it teaches you that it happens. It's a part of death, is a part of life. And so our challenge really is to live with courage, even though we know it doesn't end well for any of us. So I think there's the message of the film is so much live while you're living, because someday you won't be living. And I think that what I felt really strongly with Adam was that he's in a kind of purgatory state where he's not really living. He's just living in a certain way, surviving, and he conjures up his parents, his in order to be seen, in order so that they love him in total, to tell them something about himself. And then when they do that, even though it can be brutal at times, he does love himself a little more, and it gives him the courage to love. And that's where the Paul Mescal Harry storyline comes in. So it's got real. I think it's got real emotional authenticity to it, and I'm glad that it doesn't shy away from the brutality of death, but also the complete joy of love.
Oh, for sure. And I think in a way, like you're saying, no matter what you're going through, and I think there's people who watch the movie and the relationship is what speaks to them. There's other
Yeah,
people, the parents, the loneliness could be an aspect. There's a lot of, it can hook you
absolutely.
different ways. But I think
Yeah,
that your character, that Adam gets to have those conversations is, I
yeah,
think, hitting people in the way that I think if it didn't have that, you might run the risk of, well, I'm sad now. And
yeah,
here, I don't like, you probably feel sad at the end of the movie, but you also have that feeling of, oh, if I could have had that, or if I get to have that, that would be great. So you have
yeah.
this weird uplifting sense because you're not happy, but you have this weird like almost when you just finish crying, when you just can breathe a little.
That's exactly. It's a catharsis. I think the movie is very cathartic, and because you feel seen, exactly as you say. And what's so extraordinary is that when you're talking to people and they say, "Oh my God, the bit in the film that really killed me, that I really broke me," and it's always vastly different things. It's like that line. It's that. And so I think when you're really specific in a story, it becomes really universal. And if you try and placate to as many people as possible, it doesn't work. And so all you can do is try and tell the truth, and with some degree of vulnerability and courage, and that's what's so wonderful, that people, and so many different types of people have responded to it in the way that they have.
Oh yeah, when I was talking to Claire yesterday, I was like when you say it would never when she says to you, it would never really be enough time, would it? It was like, oh great, thanks. That broke me. Thank you for that.
I know. That line gets me too, I gotta say.
Because it's so simple. And I think that's what also makes it, I think, bearable. Because as you're making pretend, you get to go home and live your life at the end of the day. But I'm sure it's different than on other jobs. It's different than like, oh, I made a Bond movie. This is fun. You go home and you're just kind of smiling, like, I can't believe they're paying me to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You obviously feel lucky, but I'm sure there's a little bit of like, I need to like have a sit now and like
Yeah.
relax a little.
Yeah, I think that's it. It was a very cathartic thing for me to do actually, and tough and intense. And when those weeks with Claire and Jamie in that house were over, we shot them chronologically, so we had that sense. It was almost like a mini childhood. And
Yeah.
then I said goodbye to them, and then went on to the kind of more connecting, more slightly lighter time with Paul in relation to the idea of falling in love and having a connection with somebody, even though that has its own depth to it as well. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I definitely felt I didn't want to. My challenge, I suppose, was not to act in some ways, to go and do that stuff and honor this extraordinary screenplay by not. Choosing a backstory that was anything imaginatively other than my own, and that's a kind of more difficult thing to do because you're I suppose in some ways mining painful things that have happened to me, but that's my job. And so when you're doing it with stuff with people that you really trust, and you're creating something that's hopefully going to be of use to someone, it feels to me like a privilege and an honor, really, genuinely.
Oh yeah, and that you're in a safe spot, that your director is not going to see you in a spot and go, oh, let's use that take. No,
Yeah.
he's aware enough to go, okay, he's working through it. We're going to get there together.
Yeah, exactly, and that you're not going to manipulate. I don't want. We don't need to manipulate the audience.
No.
What's the audience just what you want them to be seen, and you gotta tell the truth. And never wanted it to be over emotional. I just wanted to. I understand how to play those notes of the character, and my job is just to play them in as graceful a way as I can.
Oh yeah, and I think the end result speaks for itself, that so many people have such a different response, but all the
Yeah.
same connective tissue of, I went through something and I feel like you did, and now we've gone through something, and that's
Yeah.
rare. So you should be incredibly proud about this.
Well, thank you. That's the deal we make, isn't it, between the performer and the audience?
Oh, you definitely kept up your end of the bargain this time. So
Well,
I
thank
know you
you.
got
That
more
means a
of
lot.
these, but thank you for doing this. And yeah,
Thanks,
it's not a movie I expected, but a movie I'm glad I have.
thanks, and I hope the holidays are okay this year.
Hey, Tricky, doing my best. So
Yeah.
likewise for you. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thanks. All the best.